Chapter 31 200 Million Taels. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After leaving the training grounds, Gen Uchiha headed to the police station. He knew he'd have to report back to Fugaku Uchiha eventually. He was in high spirits. He truly desired eternal life, and he was pretty sure Orochimaru believed him. After all, Orochimaru didn't know that Gen was aware of his own immortality quest. Plus, the idea of eternal life seemed so outlandish to most people that anyone who voiced it risked being labeled a lunatic. Just like Hiruzen Sarutobi considered Orochimaru, why would someone admit to wanting eternal life, risking being branded crazy, unless they genuinely craved it? Sarutobi Hiruzen had essentially cut off Orochimaru's chances of becoming Hokage because he sensed ambition and darkness in him. Confiding his dream of immortality to Orochimaru, Hokage's disciple, was a huge gamble on Orochimaru's part, so, all things considered, Orochimaru would never suspect him of lying. Back at the police station, Gen Uchiha knocked on Fugaku Uchiha's office door. "Come in." "Sir," Gen said, entering and closing the door with a slight bow. "Gen, how did it go?" Fugaku Uchiha asked, a rare smile softening his stern face. "It's done. Orochimaru-sensei said he won't support Minato-senpai as long as the money given to him is enough." Fugaku Uchiha beamed, "Excellent work, Gen. Now, no matter who became the fourth Hokage, the Uchiha clan would be in a winning position." "It wasn't just me, sir. Your leadership made it possible. If I hadn't been fortunate enough to work for you, with your vision and decisive leadership, my talents would have been wasted." To be honest, Gen Uchiha didn't think much of Fugaku Uchiha. The Uchiha clan had been destroyed under his watch, so there was obviously a problem. In his opinion, Fugaku Uchiha was ambitious but lacked wisdom. He was fierce but cautious, indecisive, and hesitant. Of course, Fugaku Uchiha wasn't completely inept, he just lacked true strength and ability. Fugaku Uchiha's smile widened, his face practically radiating joy. He liked this young man, who knew how to navigate social situations and possessed good judgment. "Arrogance never got you far. Don't be so modest. It's mostly thanks to your efforts. The clan won't forget this." Gen Uchiha smiled sheepishly, then turned serious. "Sir, Master Orochimaru wants me to go to his place tomorrow afternoon, probably for a formal apprenticeship ceremony. How much do you think would be appropriate to offer him?" Fugaku Uchiha pondered for a moment. "Make a grand gesture the first time. Give him 200 million taels. After that, we'll pay in cash or gold, depending on the progress of his research. Take this authorization to the clan treasury and withdraw the funds." 200 million taels was a fortune, an astronomical amount for ordinary ninjas. Even a small ninja family might not be worth that much if you sold everything they owned. One tael was equivalent to 10 yen, or about $5 USD. That made it a cool million. Uchiha Fugaku's move was bold and generous. "Yes, sir. Oh, and Gen, don't forget the family gathering the day after tomorrow." "Don't worry, sir, I won't forget." The Uchiha clan had a monthly gathering. All Uchiha members in Konoha were expected to attend unless they had a very good reason to miss it. Everyone knew about it, from the Hokage to the genin. It was a long-standing tradition, and the gathering was a valid excuse to refuse missions. After receiving the authorization from Fugaku Uchiha, Gen Uchiha left the police station and went to the clan treasury to withdraw the money. The banknotes were all in the highest denomination, 10,000 taels, and they filled 2 large boxes. Carrying the equivalent of $1 million, Gen Uchiha was excited. He'd never seen so much money in his life. If there were a system that made you stronger by spending money, he might have been tempted to skim some off the top. But because he became stronger without it, he didn't intercept any of it. In fact, he even added some of his own savings to the pile. If you wanted to earn Orochimaru's favor, you had to go all out. The next afternoon, Gen Uchiha carried the cash boxes to Orochimaru's mansion. After all his years as a ninja, Orochimaru had built himself a large villa in the center of Konoha. The villa was quite close to the Sarutobi clan compound and the homes of Jiraiya and Tsunade. Gen Uchiha rang the doorbell, and Anko opened the gate. You're here. Come on in, Anko said with a smile. Is Orochimaru-sensei here? Yeah, he's in the living room. What's in the boxes? You'll find out. They walked and talked, soon entering the villa's living room. Orochimaru's villa had an unsettling vibe. The curtains were drawn during the day, the light was dim, and the temperature was noticeably cooler than outside. It felt cold and eerie. Then again, it made sense for Orochimaru's place to be like that. Snakes liked cool, dark environments. Anko didn't live there, she had her own place. Orochimaru-sensei, Gen Uchiha said with a slight bow when he saw the figure in a pale yellow kimono kneeling in the living room. Orochimaru nodded slightly, a smile appearing on his pale face, and a low, raspy voice greeted him. Offer me a cup of wine, and you will be my disciple. Apprenticeship ceremonies in the ninja world weren't complicated. Ninjas didn't have time for elaborate procedures, and the ceremony wasn't fixed. Teachers basically did whatever they wanted. Yes. Gen Uchiha put down the boxes and knelt at the low table. He picked up the wine bottle, filled a glass, and held it out with both hands. Orochimaru smiled, took the glass, drained it in one gulp, and set it back on the table. Uchiha Gen stood up, carried the two boxes, and placed them next to Orochimaru. Teacher Orochimaru, this is the research funding from the clan, 200 million taels in total. Because it's the first time, it's a bit more. In the future, the Uchiha clan will do its best to meet your research needs, paying in cash or gold. Gen Uchiha opened the boxes, revealing neatly stacked banknotes. There was no dazzling gold, but the sight was still impressive. Wow, so much money. Hondo suddenly lunged forward and sprawled out next to the box, her eyes gleaming, as if she were looking at endless helpings of meatballs, red bean soup, and desserts. Orochimaru was calmer than Anko. He was a shinobi who'd seen the world, but even he was taken aback by the Uchiha clan's extravagance. They were worthy of being the most powerful ninja family in the world, with a 1,000-year legacy. The nobles of the Land of Fire had deep pockets. Hey, what's with all the loose bills? Orochimaru pointed to a stack of banknotes in one of the boxes that didn't match the neatly stacked bills. Why are these loose? He asked. Chapter 32 Great Harvest, please follow up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. This is a down payment on my apprenticeship, a little something for Orochimaru-sensei's research. It's not much, but it comes from the heart. I hope you'll accept it. Gen Uchiha knelt, his expression earnest. Orochimaru reached out, his arm extending slightly as he accepted the stack of bills. He saw they were all 10,000 tael notes. The thickness suggested it was worth well over 3 million taels. He couldn't help but be touched. It's not much, but the sentiment is appreciated. His new student's parents were both Chunin, but neither had awakened the Sharingan. Even with Uchiha clan dividends, their savings couldn't have been substantial. War had already broken out by the time Gen became a ninja, and wartime missions were compulsory, unpaid duties. The village provided the supplies. At most, once this kid unlocks the Sharingan, then develops the second Tomo, he'll stand out and earn more dividends, but that won't last long. This 3 million plus is definitely a fortune for him. Is your family doing alright for money? We're fine. This is just half of my savings. He's giving me half of what he owns. The thought solidified a decision in Orochimaru's mind. Uchiha Gen wasn't lying. He really did spend half of his savings, but Gen Uchiha wasn't worried. You can't sweat the small stuff when you're playing the big game. The better his relationship with Orochimaru, the greater his future gains. As his status in the clan rose, so would his dividends. He could live comfortably off the clan's payouts alone, without even having to take on missions. Of course, living lavishly on just clan money was a pipe dream. It was a combination of limited funds, and the fact that ninja are soldiers. They shouldn't be living it up. Ninja need strict discipline and a puritanical existence to maintain combat effectiveness and the will to fight. That's why we have things like the 3 ninja taboos. In that case, I accept your offering. As a welcoming gift, I have something for you as well. Orochimaru lifted his head and opened his mouth. A brown python emerged, regurgitating a scroll and a sword covered in mucus. Then, it retreated back down his throat, disappearing from sight. Orochimaru caught the scroll and the sword, flicking off the slime before handing them over. Uchiha Gen repressed his disgust, accepting them with a calm face. Well, this is a little wet. And slippery. Weird, star. The scroll contains the dark walking technique, an A-rank genjutsu created by the second Hokage and kept in the scroll of seals. It's perfect for you. This sword is the Kusanagi blade. It's yours. Orochimaru hadn't initially intended to part with his sword, planning to give Gen only the dark walking technique he'd taken from Hiruzen Sarutobi. But Uchiha Gen's gesture had prompted a change of heart, but that wasn't the whole story. The key reason? Both Uchiha Gen and Orochimaru sought eternal life. Otherwise, Kusanagi would still be in the scabbard and he would have just given him a pat on the butt to send him away. Gen Uchiha was ecstatic. That's beyond generous. The 3 million plus he had just gave was a pittance compared to the value of the Kusanagi and A-rank ninjutsu. Neither could be bought at any price. The dark walking technique was a great counter to the Sharingan, and the genjutsu he'd been after. The Kusanagi was also a weapon he'd always wanted. The best material for a top-tier homing weapon, no regular sword, not even the best chakra tools, felt worth the investment of his soul. The Kusanagi was different. To start, it was the ultimate in chakra conductivity. Second, it was the hardest material known to man, so sharp that even a Congo-bodied monkey king would scream in pain. Plus, the Kusanagi wasn't the Sasuke model. No, this could extend over 100 meters, enough to support Naruto in tail beast mode. This asterisk was a Kusanagi worthy of housing his soul. Thank you, Orochimaru-sensei. Gen Uchiha didn't try to hide his joy, bowing deeply with a wide smile. Sensei, you're playing favorites. My gifts when I became a disciple were nothing like this. Anko, who had watched the entire exchange, was peeved. Crossing her arms, she glared at Orochimaru. Senior brother? Isn't he your junior? Orochimaru asked, intrigued. Gen Uchiha quickly corrected Orochimaru. I see. Well, I don't mind having an older brother. Being the older sister would be too much pressure. Don't change the subject. Sensei, you owe me one. No favoritism. Anko felt the teacher's affection shifting to her new senior brother, heightening her sense of crisis. She looked at Orochimaru, face flushed. Heh. Anko, did you give me a present when you became my student? Orochimaru chuckled, half smiling. Anko's face fell. She seemed to remember getting no gifts when she became a ninja, and before that, she'd mostly relied on her teacher to get by. Even after she became a ninja, he often subsidized her. She had no comeback. Alright, don't get down. Take 5 million from the cash box and spend it. Remember to watch your weight. Don't get fat. If you don't become a chunin within my time limit, you know the consequences. Anko shivered, then perked up and said, I know, thank you, sensei. Her teacher had just given her 5 million. Heh, he still liked her best. Bang. Orochimaru weaved a hand sign, and a cloud of white smoke puffed from the low table. As the smoke cleared, a large scroll appeared. This is the summoning scroll for Ryuchi Cave. Since you don't have a summoning beast, just put your fingerprint on it. Thank you, Orochimaru-sensei. Uchiha Gen unrolled the scroll, bit his finger, and placed his print next to Anko's. Interested in snake ninjutsu, Orochimaru put away the Ryuchi Cave scroll and poured himself another drink. Uchiha Gen thought for a moment, then shook his head. Not really. Too much isn't always enough. Besides, those are your signature moves, Orochimaru-sensei. If I use them, people might think I'm a fraud. But you can never know too much. It fits his dream of learning every ninjutsu in the world. He and Gen really think alike, unlike Sarutobi and me. That old man is stubborn as a mule, Heh, you're right. Take this scroll and study it. Once you've mastered it, come see me. And if there's any ninjutsu you want to learn, just ask. Don't hold back. Asterisk bang asterisk, white smoke rose, and Orochimaru summoned another scroll. Gen Uchiha's eyes brightened. A thought struck him, and he winked discreetly at Orochimaru. Orochimaru understood immediately, saying in a low voice, "Anko, take the cash boxes to my room." Anko, busy counting her 5 million, quickly agreed and headed off with the 2 boxes. While 2 cash boxes were quite heavy, they were a featherweight burden for Anko, who has been trained by Orochimaru and is nearly Chunin in strength. After Anko had left, Orochimaru said, "Gen, what did you want to talk about?" "Orochimaru-sensei, do you know the reanimation jutsu?" "Of course." Tsunade's old flame, Kato Dan, mastered the reanimation, an S-rank forbidden technique. Uchiha Gen suppressed his excitement, lowering his voice. "Orochimaru-sensei, the reanimation delves deep into the mysteries of the soul. Eternal life is about more than just the body. I believe the soul is key. The reanimation has to be invaluable." Orochimaru's eyes flickered, pondering. "I'll acquire the reanimation. It shouldn't be too hard." "Good." Gen Uchiha nodded emphatically, thoroughly convinced. For Orochimaru, at this time in his life, obtaining the reanimation technique wouldn't be so hard. In terms of sensitivity, reanimation is far less sensitive than in pure world reincarnation, and Orochimaru's relationship with the third Hokage hasn't been broken and he and Danzo are in a cooperative relationship. Even if it fails temporarily, when Namake's Minato is confirmed as Hokage, the third will probably not refuse Orochimaru's request out of guilt. It was essentially a given that Orochimaru would obtain the reanimation. He was likely to secure it even sooner than when he'd originally taken Minato as his pupil. His sudden change of heart made perfect sense. Of all the ninjutsu in Konoha, reanimation was the one he coveted most. It was the perfect complement to the soul fruit. He had to have it. If Orochimaru and Namake's Minato hadn't been able to secure it, Gen had even been planning to capitalize on the chaos of the Nine-Tails attack to sneak into the Hokage residence and risk stealing the scroll of seals. "It's getting late. I have other matters to attend to. Make yourself at home here." Orochimaru rose from his cushion, stretching casually. "Orochimaru-sensei, have a good night." Uchiha stood, bowing slightly. Such a good teacher deserves respect. Orochimaru nodded slightly, his body gradually sinking into the floor. Expect a new plot point in the next update. Chapter 33 No Life. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Where's the teacher? Alright, you can sneak a drink. Anko put down the money box and opened the wooden door, but Orochimaru wasn't there. She spotted Gen Uchiha tilting back a wine bottle, and blurted out in surprise. "He left early. Want a swig? It's pretty good." Gen Uchiha lounged on a cushion, held up the bottle, and said with a playful smile. Anko swallowed hard, then shook her head. "You're underage. No booze. That's like, ninja rule number 2. Ha. What's so funny?" Anko puffed out her cheeks in annoyance. "Ninja rules? I've risked my neck for Konoha. Can't a guy unwind a little? What's the harm in bending the rules once in a while? Actually, chilling out can even help a ninja perform better. It's not like it's forever. Even the moon has its phases, right? Haven't you seen half the ninja hitting up the bars after a mission? The so-called 3 taboos of ninja are money, drink, and women. The ninja world advocates the 3 bans on ninjas not only because such things may affect the execution of ninja tasks, but also to control ninjas and maintain their fighting power and fighting will. Anko thought about it. Huh. Maybe he had a point. Okay, fine. Let me try some. Anko plopped down next to Uchiha Gen, looking eager. Gen Uchiha grinned and poured her a glass. Anko tossed it back in one shot. Cough. Liar. It's all burn and no taste. Anko's face flushed, and she coughed over and over. Tastes like water to me. It's just sake. It doesn't really have much of an impact on the various liquors I drank in my previous life. I just drank it for fun. You got no taste buds? Enko couldn't figure it out. So much fire, so different from her sweets, Uchiha Gen just smirked. He tilted his head back and chugged half the bottle of sake. Enko was dumbfounded. Thunk. Uchiha Gen set the bottle down, stood up, and said, I'm heading back. You coming? Amazing. Not even a buzz. Gen Uchiha smiled slightly but said nothing. This little sake is nothing. Although he was not a god of wine in his previous life, he could still drink 1.5 pounds of 54 proof liquor. Although this body has not grown yet, it is much stronger than the previous life, and has a high tolerance for alcohol. A pot of sake basically has no effect. Yeah, I'm going with you. Got some cash now. Time for dessert. Take it easy, and don't forget what Orochimaru-sensei told you. Yeah. Already acting like a big brother. Well, having a fat junior sister is embarrassing. Whatever. I'm one of those people who can eat anything and not gain weight. Gen Uchiha shook his head. Some people just don't have any self-awareness. Are you afraid that you don't know that you are almost a loser in Mizukage Ninja? It's not that you don't gain weight by eating, you just consume it by exercising a lot. The two left Orochimaru's house, bickering and shoving each other, walking down the street until they split up. Back at the Uchiha compound, Gen Uchiha slumped onto the white sofa. After a short rest, he took off the sword from his back, pressed his right hand on the sword, and pulled out a plum-sized ball of sparkling light. After absorbing the light ball, he took the Kusanagi sword given by Orochimaru, mobilized his own soul and stored lifespan to turn into a ball of sparkling light the size of an apple. With a thought, the light ball fell on the Kusanagi sword. Immediately, something magical happened. Tiny eyes, nose, and mouth popped up on the Kusanagi sword's slender blade. The Kusanagi sword floated into the air on its own. Master. The sword spoke, his voice cold and ringing. Before Uchiha Gen could say anything, a flash of red light appeared, and a mini red dragon darted around Kusanagi sword, checking out the living blade with curiosity. From now on, your name is Wu Sheng. I hope that when you take out the sheath, you will be able to kill yourself under the sword. Uchiha pondered for a moment and gave the new senior Homais a name. Yes, master. That while he was talking, Wu Sheng seemed impatient as Zhu Rong was swimming around him, looking at him, and then slashed at him with his sword. Zhu Rong dodged, sprayed out 2 flames from his nostrils, and shouted, You are so bold, you dare to be rude to my elder brother. Believe it or not, I will roast you. I'm not afraid of roasting. Wu Sheng said coldly. Alright, you too. After hearing their master's words, the 2 senior Homits temporarily stopped. Neither of you two can do anything to the other at the moment, but Zhu Rong will be born first after all, and Wu Sheng you must respect him to a certain extent. Zhu Rong, don't put on airs just because you were born first. Since you think you are the eldest brother, you must behave like one. My little brother needs to be loved and cared for, so that he will respect you. Gen Uchiha spoke again, educating him with a serious expression. I understand, master. Yes, master. Uchiha Shien is not saying that it is random, but currently both Zhu Rong and Wu Sheng really can't do anything to each other. Although fire overcomes metal, the extreme temperature that Zhu Rong can currently activate is not enough to melt the Kusanagi sword, which is made of the hardest material in the ninja world. The melting point of iron is 1538 degrees Celsius, and the melting point of steel is around 1500 degrees Celsius. As the carbon content increases, the melting point decreases. Likewise, Wu Sheng cannot help Zhu Rong. As a collection of fire elements, Zhu Rong is immune to most physical attacks. Okay, you go and play. Remember not to leave the house and not to fight. Yes, master. Seeing the 2 senior Homits chasing each other away, Gen Uchiha got up and went to the kitchen to start cooking. While cooking, Zhu Rong and Wu Sheng ran to the kitchen, and Zhu Rong lay down next to the gas stove to absorb the flames for food. Seeing this, Wu Sheng was floating in the air, looking at Uchiha Gen eagerly. There was no way, Gen Uchiha could only take out a kunai and 2 shurikens from his ninja tool bag and put them on the stove. Wuxing threw himself on the stove, opened his mouth and ate it. Click, click, kunai and shuriken disappeared little by little. By the time Gen Uchiha went to the dining room to eat, Zhu Rong and Wuxing were already full. They were flying downstairs and upstairs, playing hide and seek, and they were having a great time. After finishing lunch, Gen Uchiha took a short rest, then took out the scrolls of dark walking jutsu and snake ninjutsu and began to study them. Although the dark act is an A-level illusion, it is still not difficult for Uchiha General. He figured it out after studying it for a while. A quarter of an hour later, Gen Uchiha, who was lying on the sofa, changed his hands, quickly formed seals, and used them smoothly, the art of illusion and darkness. Ah, master, I suddenly lost sight. Me too. Zhu Rong and Wuxing, who were following their master in the living room and playing together, immediately became the experimental subjects of the unscrupulous master. You can't use yourself as a guinea pig, right? However, Gen Uchiha was not very unscrupulous. After confirming that the illusion was effective, he dispelled the illusion and did not leave the 2 hommets in darkness. Hey, I can see it. It's okay, continue. Good. After learning the dark arts, Gen Uchiha began to study snake ninjutsu again. Uchiha Gen doesn't have such a high talent for this thing, but fortunately he can understand it and is learning it bit by bit. Just when Gen Uchiha was studying ninjutsu seriously, Danzo Shimura came to the Hokage building angrily and went straight to the Hokage's office. Chapter 34 I am the Hokage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Danzo barged into the Hokage's office, slamming the door open. The third Hokage looked up, his eyes narrowed with annoyance. Danzo, what's the meaning of this? Danzo, dressed in a white, cross-collared top and a black robe with a side skirt, the bandage over his right eye stark against his skin, slammed the door shut behind him. Hiruzen, do you know Orochimaru has taken an Uchiha as a disciple? Danzo demanded, his voice tight with anger. Yes, Orochimaru told me. Umbu reports confirm it. Gen Uchiha has been seen at Orochimaru's estate, staying for extended periods. Orochimaru's not one for grand gestures or keeping secrets, but he would inform his teacher. Then why didn't you put a stop to it? Shursui Uchiha is Kagumi's descendant. His loyalty lies with the village. With guidance, he'll embrace the will of fire. Joining Team 7, becoming Minato and Yu's student, would have been enough. What about Gen Uchiha, then? Orochimaru is your disciple and a better candidate for Hokage than Minato. Can't you see the Uchiha clan's insatiable ambition? Danzo marched to the Hokage's desk, his voice rising. He spat as he spoke, is Orochimaru really a better choice than Minato? Not necessarily. His disciple was becoming increasingly difficult to understand, as if he were losing his way, and don't think I don't know you two are close. If Orochimaru becomes Hokage, your power will explode. Sarutobi Hiruzen's mind raced, but his expression remained impassive. He calmly reached for his pipe on the desk and put it to his lips. A thread of fire chakra ignited the tobacco, a plume of smoke swirling, obscuring Hiruzen's face. Seeing this indifference, Danzo was about to unleash another tirade when Hiruzen spoke. Danzo, while I'm not fond of the Uchiha, even I can see your prejudice runs too deep. The Uchiha clan's main force, led by their head, is fighting a bloody war in Kirigakure. They also played a vital role in securing previous battle lines. Like all of Konoha's clans, the Uchiha have sacrificed and served valiantly in this war. 2 Uchiha becoming students of Minato and Orochimaru. What's the big deal? Danzo remained unconvinced, scoffing. Every ninja should fight to the death for the village, especially when it's under attack. Kirigakure invaded Fire Country. The Uchiha, the Hyuga, none of them could stop it. What's the point? Hiruzen, his pipe still in his mouth, shook his head. Danzo, the latter half of your statement is unfair. Our ninjas, from the clans and civilians alike, have struggled mightily to keep Kirigakure from penetrating the Fire Country. We can't always expect to keep the enemy outside our borders. And remember, our recent reinforcements helped reclaim lost territory. Keep talk like that to yourself. It'll demoralize the troops on the front lines. Danzo was silent for a moment, then conceded, I misspoke. But the Uchiha can't be allowed to stray from the police force. Giving them more power would spell disaster for Konoha. Fearmongering. Hiruzen snapped. I'm here, you're here, Koharu is here, the Sannin are here, Minato is here, all the major clans are here, and thousands of Konoha ninjas stand ready. What damage could the Uchiha possibly do? Why this doomsday forecast for Konoha? Besides, power outside the police force isn't just handed out. Even if you were qualified, which is debatable, you'd still have to compete with experts in their fields. It's not a cakewalk. The Uchiha's divided loyalties may be questionable, but it also shows they're trying to align themselves with the Hokage. Since they're making the effort, why push them away? Wouldn't that be asking for trouble? Hiruzen finished, leaving Danzo speechless and sullen. At this point, Hiruzen still trusted the Uchiha. While he wasn't fond of them, he wouldn't deliberately target them. Hiruzen, you'll regret this. Danzo snarled. Danzo, I am the Hokage. Hiruzen retorted firmly. Humph. Faced with Hiruzen's I am the Hokage card, Danzo, defeated, could only scoff and slam the door on his way out. Hiruzen shook his head, put his pipe back in his mouth, picked up his pen, and returned to the mountain of paperwork. After leaving, Danzo contemplated sending route operatives to monitor the situation, but he ultimately decided against it. Orochimaru was still involved, and Danzo needed to maintain appearances. Spying would damage their cooperation, and the risk outweighed the reward. Time passed quickly. 10 days later, Uchiha Gen was in the training grounds, working on his physical conditioning, when a piercing cry shattered the air. He looked up to see a goshawk circling overhead. A summons from Konoha? Then, more than one ninja hawk called out over Konoha, the sounds clear and distinct even in the surrounding forests. Every ninja who heard the call's meaning changed their expression. The Genin and Chunin speculated nervously about what had happened. The Jonin, those not currently assigned duties, immediately rushed to the Hokage building. Genya Uchiha quickly dressed and gathered his gear. He no longer belonged to the police force's Jonin, but to the administrative department, and was being summoned. Only the minister and deputy minister of the police force were exempt. They had to maintain law and order in the village. At times like these, ninjas were permitted to leap across trees and rooftops, moving so fast as to appear a blur to ordinary eyes. When Gen arrived at the Hokage building, many figures passed him in a flash. He didn't rush inside, choosing to wait for an acquaintance. If Orochimaru arrived first, he would follow him. If Fugaku Uchiha arrived first, he would follow him. He wasn't intimidated, but walking in alone would leave him standing in the back row. Given his rank and age, he didn't want that. His position was too low, not reflecting his true strength. He wanted to stand closer to the front. After waiting, he saw that Orochimaru, as expected, was the first to arrive, showcasing his power. Uchiha Gen hurried over and greeted him. Orochimaru gave a slight nod, and the two headed into the Hokage building together, running. When they reached the large conference room, most of Konoha's Jonin were already there. Gen followed Orochimaru to the front, standing behind Orochimaru, almost in the second row, a location generally reserved for Konoha's leadership or the heads of the major clans. Minato Namikaze had arrived earlier than Orochimaru, and he nodded slightly as they entered, acknowledging them. Orochimaru nodded in response, and Gen Uchiha bowed slightly. Gen then greeted Kakashi and Shisui Uchiha, who were standing behind Minato, and they nodded back. A minute later, Fugaku Uchiha and others arrived and took their places. Finally, Hiruzen Sarutobi entered from the back of the room with Danzo, Mito Kadino, and Koharu, and took their seats on the stone dais. This emergency summons is to inform you of bad news. A major shift has occurred on the Kirigakure front. Hiruzen announced, his voice somber. The room fell silent, and everyone's heart sank. Chapter 35 Dramatic Changes in Kirigakure. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While Konoha and Kirigakure clashed, the 4th Mizukage ambushed the battlefield, severely wounding the Uchiha and Hinata clan leaders who were commanding the rear. They succumbed to their injuries back at camp. Other clan leaders following the palace also sustained losses. I deeply regret this immense loss. I should have anticipated this, Hokage Sarutobi Hiruzen said gravely. What? Father? Uchiha Fugaku and Hinata Hinashi were visibly shaken, exclaiming in disbelief. Uchiha Shisui, Uchiha Gen, Hyuga Hizashi, and other jonin from both clans wore grim expressions. Gen Uchiha felt nothing for the late patriarch, but he played the part. The other jonin also appeared somber. The fourth Mizuki's direct involvement suggested that Kirigakure's elite Umbu and other top ninja were also in the fray. The frontline situation had drastically worsened and was now perilous. Hiruzen, this isn't your fault. At the previous meeting, we all agreed that Kirigakure would surrender as soon as his family was the only one left and retreat to defend the land of whirlpools. Nobody expected Kirigakure to be so stubborn and greedy. This was a collective decision. You shouldn't shoulder the blame alone, Koharu said, sitting on a stone chair. The Yondaime Mizuki's actions demonstrate Kirigakure's resolve. A tough fight is inevitable. We must crush Kirigakure to force their retreat. Mito Menyen stated, pushing up his glasses. Our priority is to appoint a new commander and assemble reinforcements for the Kirigakure front. We can reflect on our mistakes after we win, Danzo said, leaning back in his stone chair. Danzo was pleased. He'd hoped to weaken Konoha's ninja clans in the Kirigakure conflict, but this was beyond his expectations. The Uchiha and Hyuga clan leaders, both elite jonin and near Kage level, had died. Other clan leaders suffered losses. He'd exceeded his goal. As Konoha's elders debated, Uchiha Gen rolled his eyes, thinking, a collective decision? All four of you. Collective blame means no one is responsible. Yes, we must crush Kirigakure to force their retreat and end this war. Therefore, besides essential personnel for Konoha, I've decided to select the best of the best for this mission. We'll send 25 jonin, 150 chunin, and 500 genin. Additionally, Tsunade, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Minato will go. With that strength, combined with the remaining forces on the front lines, can we defeat Kirigakure? Sarutobi Hiruzen looked at Orochimaru, Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Minato. Yes. The four replied immediately. The jonin present were surprised. 25 jonin was a sizable force. Before the Third Ninja War, Konoha only had around 110 jonin. Despite relaxed jonin requirements since the war began, Konoha only had 60+ jonin. Deploying nearly half at once was significant. Combined with 4 Kage-level fighters, Kirigakure had clearly angered the Hokage, but with 4 potential commanders, who would lead? Tsunade will be the commander, with Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Minato as deputies to assist her. Tsunade-sama. The best choice. Her position, strength, and neutrality made her ideal. Yes. The four at the front agreed. Prepare immediately. We depart in an hour. Yes. Everyone responded. Ninjas valued efficiency. In the conference room, Tsunade, Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Minato chose the jonin for the Kirigakure front. They consulted the ninja roster, containing detailed information, including rank, expertise, and mission history. In half an hour, 675 elite ninja were selected. They used the remaining time to pack and gather at Konoha's gate. Within 55 minutes, 675 fully armed ninja assembled at the gate and, led by the three, headed southeast. Namikaze Minato, the Yellow Flash, sped ahead to stabilize the front line and suppress Kirigakure's aggression. Tsunade ordered Minato to blunt Kirigakure's momentum. Uchiha Gen, as Orochimaru's disciple, a jonin, and an Uchiha, was among the recruits. Team 7, directly under Namikaze Minato, was also on the list. They were elite and moved fast, resting only once, arriving at 9 p.m. After the long journey, the genin's combat effectiveness plummeted, while the chunin and jonin were also weakened. Only the three ninja were at their peak. It wasn't the best time to fight, and there was no immediate battle. Namikaze Minato succeeded in shocking Kirigakure and stabilizing the front. Tsunade, using her vision and sense of smell, toured the frontline camp with the Konoha reinforcements. Morale rose among the previously demoralized troops, with the Sannin and Yellow Flash here. Konoha couldn't lose. Kirigakure spies relayed the Sannin's arrival to their camp. Tsunade and the others knew about the spies. Konoha had spies in Kirigakure as well. The goal was to influence Kirigakure's strategy, give Konoha's troops time to recover, and allow the new ninja to adapt. The 4th Mizuki Yagura summoned his officers after receiving the news. Kirigakure's leaders panicked. The Sannin and Yellow Flash's reputations were earned in war. Facing 4 renowned Kage-level masters, Kirigakure's command felt overwhelmed. Yagura realized the situation was dire and became more determined to implement the tailed beast plan. Kirigakure had slim chances without another solution. After debate, Kirigakure's leaders agreed they couldn't fight head-on. They'd defend and stall, secretly executing the tailed beast plan. Once successful, they'd counterattack. That night, Kirigakure's frontline shifted from offense to defense. The overworked Kirigakure ninja were confused. Despite earlier losses, retreat seemed cowardly. They followed orders, working all night. The leaders kept the news secret, hoping to maintain morale. The Blood Mist Village ninja were aggressive, ruthless, and disregarded life, but they weren't emotionless. Kirigakure was known as the Blood Mist Village before Obito controlled Yagura, who merely amplified it. At the Konoha front, the reinforcements ate and rested. Uchiha Gen and Uchiha Shisui had to pay respects to the deceased clan leader before resting. Chapter 36 Kill Uchiha instantly with one glance. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In the dark forest, lit up by flickering lights, Gen Uchiha and Shisui Uchiha walked side by side. They were similarly built, wearing matching dark tights and armor. The main difference was the placement of their ninja swords, and that Gen was noticeably more handsome, not that Shisui was any slouch. Nobody in the Uchiha clan, male or female, was ugly. How are things going with Kakashi and Rin? Gen asked casually. They're good people. Minato-sensei is great too, Shisui added with a smile. Looks like you've been accepted, Shisui. That fast? You're a better fit for Team 7 and Minato-sensei than I am. Regardless, they've already accepted you. Haha, don't try to make me feel better. Even Minato-sensei hasn't completely accepted me yet. Shisui felt a pang of guilt, unsure of what to say. But it doesn't matter. After becoming Orochimaru-sensei's student, I realized he's a better fit for me anyway. You don't need to take it so hard. Gen smiled and clapped Shisui on the shoulder. Minato Namikaze was a philanthropist, kind and gentle to everyone in the village, treating all equally. Because of this, few could truly get close to him. So far, the only one who truly held his heart was Kushina Uzumaki, and even she took a long time to get there. His 3 disciples held a place in Minato's heart, but not much higher than any other villager in Konoha. In some ways, Minato was a lot like the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju. Willing to sacrifice anything for the village, including himself, and even those he cared about. If Kushina ever turned against Konoha, Minato would likely kill her and then himself. As long as someone wasn't an enemy of Konoha, he rarely refused a reasonable, or even slightly unreasonable, request. This was part of why Gen chose Orochimaru. His trust was rare. Shisui just smiled, assuming Gen was just trying to make him feel better, and decided to return the favor if he ever got the chance. In his mind, there was no better teacher than Minato Namikaze. While Orochimaru was good, he didn't compare. Seeing that, Gen didn't push it. He was just telling the truth. What Shisui thought was his business. They arrived at the Uchiha clan's living quarters as they talked. The Uchiha ninja here didn't know Gen, but they were very familiar with Shisui, having witnessed his rise. Seeing Shisui, they temporarily put aside their sadness and greeted him warmly, without the usual Uchiha arrogance. After greeting his fellow ninja, Shisui smiled, raised his hand, and introduced, "This is Gen Uchiha. A ninja just as good as me, maybe even better." By better, Shisui meant not just strength, but also depth and breadth of thought. Gen raised his eyebrows. Wow, if I didn't know you, I'd think you were trying to butter me up. The surrounding Uchiha ninja frowned, looking at Gen suspiciously. The reputation of the Uchiha twins was mostly limited to the Uchiha within Konoha. These Uchiha in Kirigakure had been stuck on the front lines and hadn't heard much. Only the deceased clan leader knew anything. From correspondence with Fugaku, even if they had heard something, they'd still be skeptical, given the Uchiha clan's pride. Better than Shursui. TSK. I'll believe it when I see it. A young man in a dark, stand-up collar uniform, slim but with a rebellious face, stepped out of the crowd, his eyes scarlet. He had a 2-tomo Sharingan in his left eye and a 3-tomo in his right. The evolution of his Sharingan was among the best, as was his strength. Only a few jonin with 3-tomo Sharingan eyes could overwhelm him in the entire Uchiha camp. Osamu, what are you doing? Back down now. Realizing his words had caused trouble for Gen, Shursui snapped. Looking dark, Osamu's expression changed, losing its rebellious edge, but he didn't retreat, simply lowered his head and muttered, Shursui, I just want to see this ninja who's better than you. Yeah, I want to see it too. Me too. All of us. Shursui, don't stop him. Osamu will be respectful. It's just a spar between clan members. Hearing the murmur of the crowd, Shursui's face darkened further. Just as he was about to use his authority to force everyone back, Gen spoke. It's okay, Shursui, I want to spar with my clan members too. But it's not a big deal. You think I'm going to lose? Gen cut Shursui off and stepped forward. His dark pupils turned scarlet, 2-tomo Sharingan eyes slowly rotating. Got some guts, at least. Don't be a coward, and shame the Uchiha name. But how can 2-tomo beat Shursui's 3-tomo? That the Uchiha clan's worship of the Sharingan was ingrained. The number of tomo represented strength, so Osamu was confident. You'll find out when you try it, Gen said calmly. Just a quick one. It's hard to perform here, let's go somewhere else. No need. Scared? Osamu shot back. Not really, this will be over soon. Gen shook his head, smiling slightly, as if stating a fact. That cocky attitude made the surrounding Uchiha frown. This guy was proud, no, arrogant. Why did this guy with 4 tomo dare to talk to someone with 5 like that? Had he never been beaten before? You're asking for it. Osamu spat through gritted teeth. Osamu whirled around, ready to attack, but Gen moved first, Mystic Shackles technique. Their eyes met, and Gen immediately activated the Genjutsu, targeting Osamu, whose Sharingan was only half as good. Osamu's eyes flashed, and he found himself in a blood-red space, with 5 huge, rusty iron spikes piercing his body. Though there was no pain, he couldn't move a muscle, not even his physical body. A little trick, I'll just. In the illusion, Osamu's Sharingan spun. He thought he could break free easily, but his body wouldn't budge. How can this be? Disbelief spread across Osamu's face as his Sharingan spun faster, his eye power pouring out like a flood. Move! Move! Move, damn it! Osamu roared, growing more agitated and frantic. The next moment, Osamu broke free of the illusion and regained control of his body. He was about to retaliate, but felt something cold against his neck. Looking down, he saw a kunai pressed to his throat, and his face went ashen. See? Wasn't that the end of it? Gen Uchiha opened his 2-tomo Sharingan eyes, looking around with a playful grin. When they met Gen's Sharingan, all the Uchiha ninja averted their gaze. Still shaken, they had watched Gen calmly pull the kunai from his pouch, stroll up to Osamu, and press it to his throat. A 4-tomo illusion against a 5-tomo was shocking enough. But to be trapped for that long, unable to break free, left Osamu helpless. While Osamu's illusion skills weren't masterful, they weren't bad. That meant the gap in eye power and illusion skills between the two was huge. How could 2-tomo be so powerful against even a proficient 3-tomo? The Uchiha ninja couldn't understand, and couldn't figure it out, so they were all shocked and lowered their proud heads. Shursui couldn't help but be amazed. He could do it himself, with 3-tomo eyes and his mastery of illusion. But he could never do it with just 2. Gen's eye power was no less than his, and his illusion skills were even better. Please read it. Chapter 37 Rejection of Mental Internal Friction. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Okay, it's getting late. Everyone should head out. After saying that, Shisui Uchiha snapped back to reality, took a few steps, and clapped Gen Uchiha on the shoulder. Gen retrieved his kunai and moved forward, and the gathered Uchiha instinctively cleared a path. Shisui quietly reassured Shu Uchiha, then hurried to catch up with Gen. Once they were gone, most of the Uchiha scattered, though a few curious ones lingered around Osamu Uchiha, peppering him with questions. Still reeling from the fight, Shio Uchiha wasn't in the mood to deal with anyone. He coldly pushed away his clanmates and left. Shien, that was the first time I've seen you fight like that. Seriously impressive, Shisui said, grinning. Shisui was a straightforward and good-natured guy, not the jealous type, and his praise was genuine. The clan calls us the twin stars of the Uchiha, right? Gotta live up to the hype, Gen replied with a slight smile. Madu *. That Sharingan illusion of his that was even more advanced, drained his chakra like crazy, a third of it in one shot. He figured that amount could instantly trap 3 Jonin in Genjutsu, leaving them totally helpless. Well, if your Sharingan ever evolves to 3 Tomo, I might be the one holding you back. But I hope your Sharingan doesn't reach 3 Tomo, because that means you'll have to go through some serious pain again. Shisui raised his hand and touched his eye sockets. A shadow of sadness crossed his face, as if remembering something unpleasant. Some people call our Uchiha clan's Sharingan the Cursed Eye. And they're not entirely wrong. To unlock it, to evolve it, you have to feel gut-wrenching pain, and someone always ends up dying. Humph, they're just jealous. Wouldn't they be hurting from losing their friends, their loved ones? Sure, it still hurts, but they can't channel that pain into strength. They're just left feeling helpless and furious. Even if they're lucky enough to survive, they can only get back on their feet through relentless, long-term training. But we Uchiha can inherit the legacy of our fallen comrades, instantly turn grief and anger into power, avenge the dead, protect the living, and pull ourselves out of danger. Gen said, with a touch of disdain. Tons of people in the ninja world were jealous of, coveted, and feared the Uchiha's power. It was different from the Byakugan. The Byakugan might be hard to get, but once you had it, it wasn't tough to control. The Sharingan was way more demanding. Even a top talent like Kakashi, one of the best since Konoha's founding, struggled after getting a Sharingan transplanted. His stamina in battle took a major hit. If he'd gotten 2 Sharingan, Kakashi would probably collapse after using just one ninjutsu. The Sharingan that wouldn't turn off constantly sucked up Kakashi's chakra. Anyone else would have been even worse off. For average ninjas, transplanting a Sharingan wasn't a boost, it was just baggage. Shisui listened, and as he thought it over based on his own experiences, his eyes widened. It made perfect sense. Sure, he'd unlocked and evolved his Sharingan because of his friend's sacrifice, and it had been agonizing. But he'd also used the Sharingan to defend his surviving friends, turn the tables, and snatch victory from defeat. Shien, you always have such original ideas. Shisui, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. It's my personal motto. What is it? Shisui looked at him expectantly. Coming from a ninja as insightful as Shien, what kind of wisdom could it be? Overthink everything. If you can blame someone else, never blame yourself. Shisui stared at Gen, dumbfounded. That motto was definitely unexpected. Gen stopped walking. Shisui, now that you've unlocked the 3 Tomo Sharingan, you should be able to feel its impact on you, right? Yeah, but luckily, I've gotten used to it. The Uchiha clan understood love better than anyone. They were intensely emotional. When they lost someone they loved, they tended to go to extremes more than others. The regular Sharingan didn't have too big of an impact, but the Mangekyo was a whole other story. Just look at the Uchiha ninjas who awakened the Mangekyo in the original story. Weren't they all extremists? They each had their own obsessions and did things that normal people couldn't fathom. Chakra was a mix of mental and physical energy. The stronger your will, the stronger your spirit, the stronger your chakra. Since will and spirit were linked, and spirit and soul were linked, it all came down to willpower. Extreme willpower was usually rock solid. That's exactly why the Uchiha clan, with their extremes and their bloodline, were so powerful. Apart from the Uchiha, All the big names in the ninja world were undoubtedly strong-willed individuals. No matter if their will was right or wrong, anyone who gave up their own will or lacked resolve would weaken their chakra and reduce their strength. Your ability to adapt shows you have strong self-control. But what about the clan members who don't have strong self-control? Having lost someone they love, plus the Sharingan's influence and a lack of self-control, it's easy to go off the rails and make mistakes. The point of my motto is to avoid mental self-destruction, to not overthink things, and to blame mistakes and tragedies on the enemy as much as possible. If you can't blame the enemy, blame the next person involved, and so on. Even if it's the environment, the rocks, or the grass on the roadside, just don't blame yourself. Having someone or something to blame makes it less likely that you'll go astray. Gen Uchiha saw Itachi Uchiha as being in the late stages of mental self-destruction. He started down that path as a kid and eventually lost his way. Shisui frowned and pondered for a moment, then said, "That makes some sense, but wouldn't that be too irresponsible? I'm just talking about a way to relax mentally, not to completely dodge responsibility. Basically, it's about creating ways to vent negative emotions. You only have one outlet. Once that's blocked, it's no wonder problems arise." I get it. That's actually a good idea. Exactly. After using it myself, I feel much more relaxed and happier every day. Then I'll give it a try in the future. Yeah. Xian, what does dodge responsibility mean? Think of it like avoiding the blame. Got it. Okay, enough talk. I've said my piece. Let's pay our respects to the clan leader, then grab some food and crash. Sounds good. They walked side by side again, and after about 30 seconds, they reached the center of the Uchiha clan's camp. A tent that was noticeably bigger than the others stood before them. Uchiha ninjas stood guard at the entrance. After logging their names, they entered the simple morning hall, where a jonin was on night duty. This was the last day the clan leader's body would remain here. Tomorrow, Uchiha ninjas would escort him back to Konoha for the funeral. Unlike regular Konoha ninjas who were cremated on the spot, this was one of the perks of being part of the Uchiha clan in Konoha. While paying his respects, Shisui teared up, remembering the care and guidance the clan leader had given him. Gen didn't feel much of anything. He hadn't had much contact with the clan leader, but he still put on a decent act. After their prayers, they were about to get a bite to eat and rest, but an elder summoned them again, so they had to go. Chapter 38 Subordinates. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Uchiha clan now had two elders, Yasunari and Narizawa, both elite jonin in their early 50s, masters of the three-tomo Sharingan. Fortunately, nothing bad had happened to them. They just heard Gen and Orochimaru were now disciples of Orochimaru and Minato, and had called to give them some encouragement. 10 minutes later, Gen and Orochimaru said goodbye and headed off for dinner. Soldier pills were emergency rations. Usually, ninjas ate regular food, mostly rice balls with some vegetables and meat on the side. The taste wasn't anything special. It was just sustenance during wartime. This wasn't Italy during World War II. After eating, Gen and Orochimaru parted ways. Gen Uchiha washed up and went back to his tent for the night. A day of traveling at high speed was exhausting. Notably, their tents weren't in the Uchiha clan area, but next to Orochimaru and Minato's. After a night's rest, the Konoha ninja who had arrived were tired but in good spirits. After breakfast, Gen Uchiha was summoned to Orochimaru's tent, as the deputy commander. Orochimaru's tent was only second to Tsunade's in size. It wasn't luxurious on the battlefield, but it was bigger. Orochimaru-sensei, you wanted to see me? Gen Uchiha stepped into the tent and gave a slight bow. Yes, come in and sit down. Orochimaru was eating breakfast. Without even looking up, he gestured with his hand, his voice low and raspy. Gen Uchiha sat down across from Orochimaru. Want anything to eat? I've already eaten. Good. I called you here to tell you that you'll be leading a squad. You're a jonin, so you should have been doing this for a while now. Can't I pass? Gen Uchiha asked bluntly, not bothering with formalities. Why? One person is more flexible alone. Teammates can slow you down. You know what they say, Orochimaru-sensei isn't afraid of opponents who are like gods, but is afraid of teammates who are like pigs. Actually, Gen Uchiha wanted the opportunity to harvest souls. Heh. I haven't heard that one. This kid's got some issues. Keep those thoughts to yourself. Although ninjas focused on missions, considering teammates a burden would definitely rub people the wrong way. I know better than to spout nonsense in front of others. Orochimaru-sensei, can we make this happen? Orochimaru shook his head. No, because they're your subordinates, not teammates. Oh, right. That's a big difference. Gen Uchiha said, pretending to understand. Orochimaru didn't get angry at Gen Uchiha's sarcasm, he had a pretty open mind. As long as you were a genius or useful to him, he wouldn't take offense. If I were the commander, I'd meet your request, but I'm just the deputy. Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Minato, they all stress teamwork. You're the only exception. It won't fly. Alright, you've convinced me. But even though your teacher and I are the deputy, I still have some power. Orochimaru put down his food, flicked his right hand, snatched a scroll off the table, and tossed it to Uchiha Gen. This is a list of Chunin who will be supporting Konoha on the front lines. Pick 3 that you want, and I'll take care of the rest. *TSK, *, it's good to have connections. He could really do this. Minato would never use his position for personal gain, Orochimaru was different. As a scientific researcher, over-reporting funds was normal. That's awesome, Orochimaru-sensei. Awesome, Orochimaru understood after a moment. Gen was always coming up with new slang. After the flattery, Gen Uchiha opened the scroll, he quickly chose 3 subordinates, picked up a pen from Orochimaru's desk, marked them, and handed the scroll back. Okay. I chose 3 Chunin who are good at ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu. There's one of each type, both male and female. They're also skilled at reconnaissance, with good vision. Well, as your disciple, how bad can they be? Heh, you're getting more laid back. Can't help it, that's what happens when you have a good teacher. Orochimaru. The kid was trying to butter him up, but, it felt good, words matter, and everyone likes compliments, unless you're a jerk. Alright, leave if you don't need anything else. They'll be reporting to you this afternoon. One more thing. Explain. Orochimaru-sensei, are we attacking today? No. Kirigakure changed their defenses overnight. Today, we're letting the reconnaissance teams figure out the new layout. If things go well, we'll stab Kirigakure tomorrow. If not, it could be the day after. To maintain morale, we need a victory. We're not exactly pumped up right now. Uchiha Gen nodded slightly, the frontline officers were sharp. This is confidential. Don't spill the beans. Teacher, don't worry. I'm a Jonin, not some rookie. If that's it, I'm outta here. Interesting new slang. Orochimaru's mouth curved slightly. He waved dismissively. Uchiha Gen bowed slightly, then turned and left. Oh, how's your snake ninjutsu coming along? Learn the hidden shadow snake hands. He'd learned a snake-type ninjutsu in about 10 days, which was decent. What about the dark arts? Had those down for a while. With the dark arts and dust release, the Kirigakure ninja would be at a disadvantage. He was in a prime position to make a contribution. Orochimaru went back to his breakfast. The taste wasn't important, but he needed the energy. Uchiha Gen didn't feel like running around, so he went back to his tent to study chakra transformation and ninjutsu, and to let Zhu Rong and Mu Xing rest a little more. At 2 in the afternoon, Gen Uchiha was taking a nap after lunch. Zhu Rong and Wu Sheng were lying next to him quietly, taking a nap. Captain, Hyuga Takuma, Yuhi Kurenai here to report, that the subordinates Uchiha Gen had chosen were the future Jonin of Konoha, all newly promoted Chunin. Kurenai Yuhi, Gen Uchiha, and Obito were all born in the 36th year of Konoha. They were a year older than Kakashi, making them 13. Hearing the noise outside the tent, Zhu Rong, who was lying down, leaped up like a carp and quickly submerged into Gen Uchiha's left arm. Wu Xing also quickly flew up and inserted himself into his scabbard. Uchiha Gen opened his eyes, stretched, sat up straight, and said, "I know. I'll be right out." He wasn't being arrogant by not inviting them in, but the tent wasn't big enough for 3 extra people, except for a few important people, ninjas, even jonin, use standard tents. They weren't very different. Outside the tent, 3 figures stood side by side, the most striking being Yuhi Kurenai. There were few female ninjas, and even fewer pretty ones. Yuhi Kurenai had delicate features and was quite heroic. She wore a Konoha ninja headband, had thick black hair, and wore a blue top and shorts. Her slender legs were covered in black mesh, and her arms and collarbones were also covered in black mesh. Right now, Yuhi Kurenai was staring blankly ahead, her gorgeous red eyes a little unfocused. Hadn't her father told her to follow him? Why had she suddenly been transferred to work under her old classmate? It was embarrassing. Chapter 39 Attack. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Gen Uchiha quickly packed his gear, hopped out of the tent, and greeted everyone with a smile. "Morning, folks." Hyuga Takuma, sporting a ninja headband, wore a standard Konoha uniform, a white, tight-fitting battle suit under a green Chunin vest. With his Byakugan inactive, he almost looked handsome. Bai-yun, his hair pulled back in a ponytail, also wore a Konoha headband. His face, unmarked by scars, had a heroic quality. He was dressed in a black, skin-tight suit, a green Chunin vest, and carried a ninja sword strapped to his back. "Morning, Captain," Hyuga Takuma and Bai-yun said in unison. Yuhi Kurenai, caught off guard, was a little slow to react, making her blush with embarrassment. "Morning, Captain." Uchiha Gen gave a slight nod, then turned to Kurenai, a grin spreading across his face. "Kurenai, long time no see. You're looking even more radiant." Pleased by the compliment, Kurenai demurred, "Being pretty doesn't exactly help us win battles, does it? It's not like it's gonna feed us." "Still, you're seriously impressive. A jonin already, just like Kakashi. Talk about being two-faced, star. Jonin isn't all that special. Still gotta work for a living. And you're not. Wipe that smug look off your face, and maybe I'll buy it, star. Haha. Alright, let's get down to business. Everyone, let's do introductions. Get to know each other a little. Kurenai, you're up first. This is how a team's supposed to work. Can't go in blind, star. Yuhi Kurenai nodded, stating plainly, "I'm Yuhi Kurenai. Genjutsu is my specialty. Nice to work with you all." Hyuga Takuma, standing in the middle, followed suit. "I'm Hyuga Takuma. Taijutsu and reconnaissance are my strengths. Looking forward to it." Bai-yun, on the left, added, "I'm Bai-yun. I specialize in wind-style ninjutsu and swordsmanship. Pleasure to be here." None of them were rookie graduates fresh out of the academy. They were all seasoned Chunin capable of leading squads independently. This team-up was temporary, so they kept their introductions brief and to the point. "Excellent. While we have the time, find a spot to train together. Work on our teamwork, build some synergy." "Yes, Captain." Takuma and Bai-yun responded in unison. "Hold on, Captain. You should introduce yourself, too. My memories of you are pretty much frozen in time, let alone theirs," Yuhi Kurenai pointed out, slightly annoyed. "Ah, sorry, slipped my mind. I'm Uchiha. General Genjutsu and fire style are my bread and butter. I'm pretty decent with wind and earth style too. And, I'm not too shabby with a sword or throwing weapons. He's skilled with Genjutsu. His Genjutsu as a jonin should be stronger than mine, but I don't know how he compares to his father. Guess I'll have to ask him for pointers later, Yuhi Kurenai mused. Okay, let's move out." The 4 of them left the camp and spent 2 hours finding a place to train. Their individual skills remained largely unchanged, but the team's overall effectiveness had noticeably improved. The next day, thanks to the smooth progress of Konoha's scouting, the village officially launched its attack, their first objective: destroy the numerous traps Kirigakure had laid near their encampment. Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Minato personally led the Konoha reconnaissance forces, detonating traps along the path with explosive tag-laden kunai. Tsunade led the main Konoha force. Following closely behind the scouts, Kirigakure, of course, wouldn't just stand by and watch their carefully constructed defenses dismantled. They dispatched ninjas to slow them down, but these ninjas were no match for the three legendary figures. They were swept aside without much effort. To truly hinder Konoha's reconnaissance efforts, Kirigakure would need to commit a large force or send Yagura and his top-tier fighters. However, deploying a large force in a field riddled with traps was impossible, as only a select few senior officers possessed detailed knowledge of the defense plan. Other ninjas only knew fragments of the layout. Charging in blindly would risk friendly fire. Yagura and his elite could engage the enemy, but they had to consider the main Konoha force led by Tsunade. If she and the reconnaissance team's Jonin, Special Jonin, and the three Kage-level experts launched an attack, it would be perilous. Yagura wouldn't fear that if he became a perfect Jinchuriki, but Yagura is not even a Jinchuriki now and has a plan in mind, so he doesn't dare to take that risk. After a brief attempt to slow them down, Kirigakure retreated and decided to use the time Konoha spent clearing the traps to prepare the battlefield to their advantage. Not everyone had the same water affinity as Senju Tobirama, capable of performing advanced water-style techniques in arid conditions. Kirigakure's base camp was located around a sizable lake in the forest, spanning tens of thousands of square meters. All Kirigakure ninjas at the Chunin level and above unleashed water-style techniques, manipulating the lake's water to flood the surrounding area. The goal was to turn the camp into a swamp. Even if they were unsuccessful, it could increase the moisture content in the air. By the time the Konoha ninjas finished clearing Kirigakure's traps, the battlefield had become decidedly favorable for the Mist ninjas. However, the Konoha ninjas weren't phased. First, they had four world-renowned Kage-level leaders spearheading the charge. Second, this level of moisture was nothing compared to the land of whirlpools. Surrounded by the sea on three sides, the land of whirlpools had the second highest humidity levels, only surpassed by the land of water. It was an ideal environment for water-style ninjas. Ninja battles weren't like ordinary army charges. The Konoha ninjas began by collectively launching kunai and shuriken, then organized themselves into smaller teams. Explosive tags were costly. Ordinary genin hesitated to use them in the opening volley. Only wealthier Chunin and Jonin attached them to their initial barrage. Boom, 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 balls of fire erupted in the fog-laden area, and a storm of shuriken and kunai pierced the thick haze. Aside from a few unlucky souls who were standing in the front took the brunt of the attack, Kirigakure suffered minimal casualties. Without specific orders, all ninjas proficient in wind style used their techniques. Orochimaru, Minato, and Jiraiya also knew wind style techniques, boosted by the wind style of three Kage-level experts. Combined with the efforts of all wind style users in Konoha, a man-made gale swept through, dissipating the thick fog that blanketed Kirigakure. As the fog cleared, the Konoha ninjas discovered that the majority of Kirigakure's forces had flanked them. Had the fog not been dispersed, they would likely have been caught in a devastating ambush. With the element of surprise gone, the two sides were forced to engage in a head-on confrontation. Unless Kirigakure was willing to cede the territory they had fought so hard to capture, they would have to take their chances. No matter how defensive they were, it was a matter of using the defense effectively. A well-executed defense could inflict losses on the Konoha ninjas before the main battle. A poorly executed one could be easily bypassed. Like the current situation, the ninja way of war was a demonstration of the saying the best defense is offense. At the intersection of the lake and the forest, either in the woods or on the relatively open lake, thousands of ninjas were engaged in a fierce battle, ignoring the concepts of right and wrong, fueled only by their loyalties. In one corner of the battlefield, Team Gen was locked in combat with a squad of 4 Kirigakure ninjas. Clang, 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 Gen Uchiha swung his Kusanagi blade, deflecting the incoming shuriken, then unleashed a diagonal slash. The blade extended rapidly, catching the Mist Ninja off guard. Mid-air, the Mist Ninja was forced to block with his sword. The Mist Ninja, unable to gain purchase in the air, crashed to the ground. Gen Uchiha's figure blurred as he thrust the Kusanagi blade downward. The mist ninja braced himself, blocking with both hands as he looked up. The mist ninja who can survive to this day still has 2 brushes, but unfortunately he is still struggling to his death. The force of the blow sent the mist ninja crashing to the ground, his internal organs reeling. He coughed up blood, his grip faltering. The tip of the blade pierced through his guard and into his chest. Chapter 40 Minazuki and Kaguya. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ugh. The mist ninja screamed, but didn't die right away. The sword of Kusanagi had pierced his right lung instead of his heart. The sword retracted, and Gen Uchiha dropped, planting a foot on the mist ninja's sword arm and the other on his throat. A sickening crunch signaled the crushed windpipe, delivering a fatal blow. Water release, water chaos. A stream of high-pressure water tore through the trees, followed by shurikens and 2 kunai rigged with explosive tags. Uchiha Gen backflipped to dodge. With a flick of his wrist, the Kusanagi extended to its full length, and the blade flashed. 2 shurikens collided with one of the kunai, sending it off course. Thanks to the Sharingan, he easily deflected the incoming shurikens with the Kusanagi. Boom. Boom. 2 explosions rocked the air as 4 mist ninjas, moving like shadows through the treetops, attacked Uchiha Gen. Calmly, Gen Uchiha resheathed his sword, formed hand seals, and vanished. Earth style, hiding like a mole. Watch out. Seeing Uchiha Gen disappear, the lead mist Chunin barked a warning. He immediately hurled a shuriken at the spot where Uchiha Gen had been, but it sailed wide, embedding itself in the dirt. The other 3 mist ninjas instantly broke off their attack, closing ranks with the Chunin. They formed a tight circle, backs to each other, guarding against a surprise attack. They had no idea that this formation would play right into Gen Uchiha's hands. Nirvana Temple Technique, concealed behind a tree. Gen Uchiha completed the hand seals. Dense white feathers fluttered down, carrying a potent sleep-inducing genjutsu. Despite their heightened alertness, the 3 mist genin succumbed instantly, their eyes snapping shut as they crumpled to the ground. The mist Chunin fought desperately, biting his tongue at the last possible second. He frantically weaved hand seals to break the genjutsu, snapping back to reality. But it was too late. A kunai with an explosive tag hurtled towards him, filling his vision. He had no time to react. Poof. A spray of blood erupted from his throat. Then, with a deafening boom, a fiery explosion engulfed all 4 of them, sending blood and limbs flying. The mist genin were jolted awake by searing pain. Their bodies were scorched, and they thrashed on the ground, screaming. Uchiha Gen showed no emotion, unmoved by the scene. He tossed 3 kunai, ending their suffering. At that moment, Kurenai Yuhi and the other 2 arrived, having finished their own battles, leaping to Uchiha Gen's side. You took out 2 Chunin and 3 genin in no time at all. You really live up to your title, Captain, Baiyun said, casually wiping the blood from his sword. Uchiha Gen didn't reply. Instead, he pulled a stack of explosive tags from his ninja pouch and offered them to the others. The fighting's only going to get tougher from here on out. I might not be able to protect you all the time. Split these explosive tags amongst yourselves. And stick together. The 3 of you, working together, should be able to hold your own even against a jonin. Kurenai Yuhi eyed the pile of at least 20 explosive tags, pursing her lips. Captain, if you give us all the explosive tags, what about you? Yeah, Captain, you should keep some for yourself. Definitely, Captain, Takuma Hinata and Baiyun Morning added. I've got way more chakra than you guys. Explosive tags aren't that useful to me. You need them more. Besides, I've still got a few left. Uchiha Gen then pulled out another, albeit smaller, stack of explosive tags from his pouch. Maybe a dozen. Yuhi Kurenai. Hinata Takuma. Baiyun Morning. What a baller. 30 or 40 explosive tags. Is the Uchiha clan loaded or something? They barely had 5 each. Normal Uchiha weren't this well equipped, but Gen Uchiha was a protege of Orochimaru and favored by the clan. A few extra explosive tags were understandable, seeing how generous their captain was. The three didn't hesitate, grabbing the explosive tags and dividing them evenly. The power of one explosive tag was about equal to a C-rank ninjutsu, and the chakra cost was minimal. A great way to take out an enemy or save your own skin. Enemies incoming. Strong ones. 1 Jonin and 3 Chunin. Takuma Hinata, with his Byakugan activated, warned them urgently, his voice tight. The next second, 4 figures appeared, 3 men and 1 woman. 2 of them were particularly striking, their uniforms bearing the symbols of the Minazuki and Kaguya clans. The Minazuki, also known as the Snow Clan, were a bloodthirsty bunch that controlled ice and snow. The Kaguya controlled bones and were known for their brutality in battle. Oh, look! It's an Uchiha and a Hinata. Talk about being meant to be, a young man sneered. He wore a snow-white, form-fitting combat suit and a Mist Village forehead protector, his handsome features marred by a coldness. Heh heh. I live to kill Hinata, a young man leered. He wore a moon-white combat uniform, had a bizarre hairstyle, 2 red dots on his forehead, and a face that was both rough and sadistic. The Hinata and Kaguya clans were both famous taijutsu families, and the debate about who was superior was endless. They were rivals through and through. Humph, I'd love to kill those Kaguya freaks, Takuma Hinata spat, his face hardening. Heh heh. Is that so? Then let's settle this once and for all. Without another word, the Kaguya ninja charged forward like a berserker. Uchiha Gen immediately formed hand seals, his movements blurring with speed. Fire style, fireball jutsu, golden-orange flames erupted, coalescing into massive fireballs that hurtled toward them. The intense heat warped the air, searing their skin. The Kaguya ninja's expression tightened, and they dodged. Their mastery of taijutsu and the corpse bone bloodline inheritance granted the Kaguya ninja reaction speeds and agility far beyond those of ordinary chunin. Vacuum sword. Baiyun swung his blade, unleashing a sharp wind blade that screamed toward his target's neck. The Kaguya ninja crossed his arms in defense. His flesh and blood cracked, but his bones rapidly stretched, augmented by chakra. They were as strong as steel. The wind blade bounced off, leaving only a small scratch. Bastards! You're just gonna stand there and watch, huh? The Kaguya ninja landed on a tree trunk, snarling in anger. The Mist ninja had been spectators from the start, not even throwing a shuriken. This was partly due to Mist Village's messed up policies, resulting in a general indifference among their ninja. Also, the Kaguya clan was viewed as an unwanted group. The pure-blooded Mist ninja were too lazy to get involved. Finally, the Kaguya clan wasn't popular within Mist Village, so the Minazuki clan didn't want to help. Alright, let's go. Can't let the Leaf ninja laugh at us, the Mist Jonin ordered. Even the Mist ninja, who disliked the Kaguya, had to obey. Disobeying an order would mean certain death, no matter what. Seeing the Mist ninja finally step up, Yuhi Kurenai and the others engaged their opponents, pairing off. Hinata and Kaguya locked into a taijutsu duel, while the others, lacking intel, initially tested the waters with their taijutsu skills. As the fighting intensified, the 6 fighters gradually moved away from the 2 jonin. I've never fought anyone from the Minazuki clan before. Give me your name, and I'll make your death quick, Uchiha Gen said, his eyes gleaming with interest. Huh, Suigetsu Ching, and if you tell me yours, I'll give you the same consideration, Kiyoshi Minazuki replied calmly, lowering his gaze to avoid the Sharingan as he began forming hand seals. Uchiha Gen. Seeing the enemy's movements, Uchiha Gen immediately followed suit, answering politely.